Oh, he has that ability. He can do that.
No, he doesn't.
Yes, he does.
Maybe in this game, but not at Maryland. Trey Johnson. Now Bailey, number 2 player in the class, knocks it down for 2.
With that
The
size.
elevation, the length and the size to make jump shots. Johnson the kick out to Dylan Harper for the triple. Son of the 5-time NBA champ Ron Harper.
And he looks to the bench to many of his mentors along the side.
Former college coach at Link Academy did a great job with him on the defensive end and as a playmaker. Here comes Harper on the break for the West. Feeding Bidunga for the throwdown. Couldn't handle the pass from Bethea. Johnson, pull up 3.
They're getting back now in transition. We are trotting back on defense. We need to be the aggressors. We need to be the ones getting out and getting transition buckets.
On defense in this game, you don't see that a lot in all-star games. No. It speaks to their competitive nature.
Hi, and welcome to the Passion Project. I'm your host, Coach Richard Bacon, and I have a special guest with me today from North Crowley High School, fresh off the McDonald's All-American game this past Tuesday. By the time this airs, it'll be a week since he's participated, but I got him 2 days after he got back because I wanted fresh on his mind. I happened to be able to attend the game thanks to him helping me obtain tickets. I was on the 3rd row right behind the scores table and got a chance to sit with his mom and visit him. So I know a little bit more about him than I know now. So I'm gonna get him on this podcast today. Coach, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, my name is Tommy Brakel. I'm the head men's basketball coach at North Crowley High School. I have been at North Crowley High School for 26 years, and I'm the only head coach that North Crowley High School has ever had, and that's the only head coaching job that I've ever had, so we're kind of connected at the hip a little bit. But, you know, Richard, I got into coaching back 30 years ago and didn't even really know what I was doing or why I was doing it. And, you know, I just knew that I was through playing college basketball. I had an opportunity to play at Sul Ross State University out in West Texas, just some small school basketball stuff. But when it all comes to an end, it's like, how am I going to compete now? And so getting into coaching and staying involved in sports and athletics, that was still kind of my way to compete. And then, you know, I know we've shared some things over the years, but, you know, somewhere along the way, you know, it got away from being about me and got more about being about, you know, about those kids. And then it even shifted after that at how can I help other young coaches, you know, be successful in the profession and in the game.
Right. It's amazing how you start down a path and then it branches off just like a tree and so forth.
Yes, sir.
How many coaches have you had in your stable, I would say, that moved on and continued to coach and became a head coach? Can you remember?
Yeah, I think I'm at about 7 or 8 right now that have went on and been a head coach at some point. You know, I've also had coaches that have decided to go into administration and be principals. And, you know, matter of fact, it's kind of a funny story, but our head principal right now at North Crowley High School is a guy named Mario Lane. And Dr. Lane, and I plucked him straight out of Texas Tech, and he was coaching on the state championship team in 2008 that we had, and now I'm answering to him. He's my boss.
It's funny, man. Until you actually sit down and share stories like that, and this is one of the advantages I have with my podcast. Even though I know people and we get to talking, and you'll find that sometimes you have more similarities than you think. I have a guy who brought his brother to me and said, Coach, we're moving to North Richland Hills, and I've heard a lot about you. I just wanted to meet you because I want my brother to play for you. Their mom had died, and he had to take custody of him.
Right.
And so we met and we talked. And before he left, he said, Coach, I want to do what you do. I said, well, tell me what you think I do. He said, you impact kids. I said, okay. I leave, get a call from one of my assistants who had just got a head coaching job. So now I got a position open.
Right.
I call him back and tell him, hey, would you be interested in maybe starting that career path now? And he was like, sure, you know. And now he is now known as Dr. Whitfield. He's a superintendent of schools. So
that is so awesome.
That's crazy, right?
That's absolute great story. And you asked how many on the coaching tree side of it, but it's also been the number of ex-players that have come back and coached underneath me in the program. That has been so gratifying over the years. I'm going to guess maybe 8 to 10 guys have come back and been involved in coaching. And one time I heard a John Maxwell quote, and he talked about adding to being a guy that adds to kids' lives, like you talk about. We make such a difference as coaches sometimes in these kids' lives, and but when you really become impactful is when you get away from just the addition and you become a multiplier, because the things that you taught them, now they're teaching to others. And then when you see that stuff come full circle, that gives you goosebumps, man. That when you've been doing it as long as we have, that you have made that kind of impact on young men's lives.
And the testimony is in itself when they come back.
Absolutely.
I mean, you say you want to see a good coach, see how many of his players come back.
Yeah.
And then, like you say, some of them get to work for you.
Awesome.
I've had several work for me, and one of them is Wesley Gibson, who was the son of my boss as the athletic director of Burville ISD, Willow Gibson, and he came back and I hired him. He got hired in the middle school, and then I pulled him up to the high school, and now he's a head coach.
Right.
And so she was telling me a story once that they were in conversation, and she said, "Boy, if you tell me one more thing Coach Bacon told you." But anyway, Coach, that's the fun and the beauty of this.
Absolutely is. Absolutely.
One of the greatest occupations you can have.
Couldn't agree more. And then the relationships that you're able to build, not only while you're doing it, but afterwards, like what we've got, is just amazing as well. To sit around, I think it's truly a fraternity. I really do.
No doubt. And sometimes, and we're going to get into this later, but sometimes you don't realize the respect people have of you because you're competing against them all the time.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So this is the McDonald's All-American show, by the way, guys. Tommy was the coach of the 2024 McDonald's All-American game, and I was lucky enough to be the coach of the 2023 game. So I talked to him about it. I said, "Hey, man, we need to get together, compare some notes, and share this behind-the-scenes experience with other people, because to me, it was one of the best things ever happened in my life." Coach, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's way up there. It really is. The opportunity to go and, we grew up watching, McDonald's All-American games, and whether it was Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, and the list goes on and on and on. When we were growing up, that was the event. It was the only event that was out there that was nationally, recognized that way. But it was just such an amazing thing, and I know we're going to get into it in a bit, but receiving that phone call, I mean, it just really kind of sets you back. But then once you get down there and you see how much they pour into that event, why it was always, recognized nationally the way it was.
I know I sent you a lot of possible questions, Coach, and the way this conversation is going, and I meant to mention this to you, we may not even get to all of them.
Right.
But I do want you, speaking of, take me through the day that you got the call or the email, and how did you find out that you were selected as the coach?
Yep. So I got a call from Terry Lynn Wooten. She's one of the directors of the committee, and I was actually in practice when it happened, and I don't ever answer my phone in practice. Every now and then I'll take a peek at it, just as my athletic coordinator duties sometimes. I need to know when there's something going on, in the building. If it's an emergency I need to get away from, but I don't typically answer phone calls or try to return text messages. And I got a call from Terry Lynn, and I promise that was the last thing that was on my mind. I knew that Joe coached, at Bishop O'Connell. We had played Bishop O'Connell earlier in the year. So, I mean, there were just lots of things like, why?
Right.
Why am I getting this call right here? Because it was the last thing that I had thought of. And, so I even stepped out of the gym for a second. I kind of turned it over to my coaches. I stepped out of the gym. I answered the phone call, which I'm so glad I did, for it to be live like that.
Right.
And she told me, and I swear I got goosebumps on the spot. I mean, I almost got a little bit choked up. Just such an honor.
Wow. Coach, I remember You got the direct phone call. This is what I got. I came into the office, checking my emails in the afternoon, and it said McDonald's. So I said, okay. I started reading the email. I said, we have been trying to contact you. It's going straight to voicemail. Please give us a call. Didn't say anything about you had been, whatever.
Right.
And so I called the number back immediately, and she said, Coach Bacon, you were nominated to coach the McDonald's All-American. I said, yes. And I was thinking what was going to follow that was, but we chose,
But congratulations on the honor of being recognized, blah, blah, blah. Exactly.
And then she said, you will be coaching the East team. I said, huh? She said, yeah, you'll be coaching the East team. And I'm going to tell you, I took the phone and put it, and I was in my chair then, and Coach, I fell back in the chair. I'm like, whoa, doing what? And so she said, well, all the other stuff they tell you, we'll be contacting you and doing this, doing that, and I'm like, wow. Here's another question, Coach. Do you know who nominated you?
I did not at the time.
But I mean, now, do you know?
Now I do.
Okay,
and
let's give it some shine, Coach.
I know that, one of the questions was that, did I go and ask, or whatever, but it just kind of came to me and just kind of came out while I was down there. But Joe Wooten himself had nominated me, and it didn't hurt that we had went down out to the Beach Ball Classic this year, and we played, and he has an amazing team, does every year at Bishop O'Connell, and, we played them head-to-head. We had them on the ropes, had them down by about 12, and then his McDonald's All-American took over in the fourth. I think he went 7 of 8, and the only shot he missed in the fourth quarter, he got his own rebound and stuck it back. Anyway, and about 3 years ago, when we played out at the Beach Ball Classic in South Carolina, we got them, and we were able to beat them, and had a bunch of guys out there, and that were just great young men, a great team, but not a lot of nationally recognized guys. So, I know that didn't hurt at all. And then having guys like Glenn Smith here in the Metroplex, Bonzel, guys like that, that sure helps to have friends and people that you have a lot of respect for, that know you as well.
I knew who nominated me before it ever happened. And just to let you, and I'm not a pessimistic person. I'm probably the most optimistic person you ever meet. But when they called me to tell me what they needed from me to nominate me, I was like, okay, So Charles Hickman and Michael Thomas from Denton High School nominated me. And they both nominated me not knowing that they both were nominating me.
Right.
And so when they nominated me and they asked me for stuff, Coach, I'm going to tell you, I was slow-foot about giving them the information that they needed.
Right.
And so Charles called me and says, hey, man, this is the last day I can submit it. Matter of fact, I think it was yesterday, but if you send it to me today, I'll go ahead and send it in and just see what happens.
Yes, sir.
And so I did. Same thing with Michael. Michael had called me the day before and said the same thing. Hey, man, this is the last day that I can submit your name for being nominated for the game. I said, okay. So now that was in the summer. Fast forward all the way, you get the call in January.
Right.
And so I was floored. So what did you do next after? So you in practice trying to get ready for playoffs, I'm sure.
Exactly. I mean, we were in the middle of district play
when
the call, and it was hard. I'm not going to lie. It was hard to go back in and get refocused. But I tried to stay professional with it. I tried to go back in, get refocused. I've got all this excitement, going on inside. I think one of the reasons I know that I was a little bit slow-footed, like you said in the past, to put that kind of stuff in is because you just think, man, I can't be deserving, and you forget what all you've done over a period of time. And then again, like we talk about the lives that we've affected or the numbers that we've built up in time. But, it's just such a prestigious honor and recognition that, I know I can only speak for myself, but I didn't feel worthy, and so to receive that call, to be able to, accept right there on the spot, but then have to walk back in that practice, and try to get focused, that was a bit of a challenge.
So it's 2 head coaches in America that's going to be chosen to coach that game, and you one of them.
Isn't that cool?
That's unbelievable. So I know how I felt. First thing I did was my assistant / associate head coach was in ninth grade center, is where he has his classes.
Right.
So I was on the main campus. I got in my car. I drove over to the ninth grade center, went to his classroom. I peeked my head in the door. I said, Coach, I need you to come outside. He said, huh? I said, no, I need you to come outside the classroom for a second. He came outside the classroom. I said, we going to McDonald's. We going to McDonald's. He looked at me. He said,
He was thinking for lunch?
yeah, that's what he thought, Coach. He's like, going to McDonald's. He said, Coach, what you talking about? I said, Coach, I just got selected to coach McDonald's All-American. He said, man, you lying. I said, Coach, I'm serious. Just got off the phone. And then finally convinced him that it was true. And man, that's what I did next. You remember what you did next when you went back in?
Well, did they give you all the pressure of not telling anybody?
They did.
Because they put the
Put the
pressure
gag
on
on
me
it.
too.
Put that
They
gag.
said, look, this can't leak out until we make the official announcement, and it was like 2 weeks,
Yeah,
3
it was.
weeks,
2
something like
weeks.
that.
You had to sit on
and
it.
I was like, man, that's a long time to sit on something. So, I kept the circle really close. I did tell the two assistants that were going with me because it almost didn't go hand in hand.
Right.
They wanted you to not tell anybody, but yet they wanted you to go ahead and commit who those assistants were going to be.
Right.
And so, I needed to make sure that they could go, and attend, and they've got families and everything else. And so, it was kind of walking that fine line. But, I told the two assistants that were going with me.
Right.
Told my wife, my father, who has, been with me, he comes to all the games and everything else. So I just kept that initial circle really, really close of people that I could trust, but people that had been, involved, in the career the whole way.
Right. I only told one assistant and my wife.
Right.
And that was it. And so when we got to that 2 weeks part, I brought the whole team in and we watched the unveiling of the teams.
That's really cool.
And then when they unveil the teams, and then I say, and your coach is going to be coaching that East team. They looked at me like, are you serious, Coach? Yes, the McDonald's game. It's amazing how many people you tell you're coaching the McDonald's game and they think you're not the head coach.
Right.
You think somebody else is the head coach and they just brought you along for the journey. But that wasn't the case for either of us. All right, Coach, let's move on down the road a little bit. So you told me that you took your assistants. When
Yes,
you say
sir.
your assistants, you mean from your North Crowley staff.
Current North Crowley staff, yes, sir.
Why did you choose them guys?
And I feel like that we'll get into this a little bit later in the podcast, but to me, it was about North Crowley High School. It wasn't even really about Tommy Brakel. And so I knew that I needed to, represent the North Crowley basketball program. And so I felt like the assistants I had right there at that moment to go back and get any ex-assistants or, something like that would have been an option as well. But, I couldn't go back and grab ex-players to go down there and play for me either. And so, we just took it as, that myself, the staff, were going to go down there on behalf of all of the players and all of the assistant coaches, that North Crowley has had over
Right,
the years. And
right.
so that was kind of the reasoning behind it.
Because we had choices. We could have chose any high school coach. Just couldn't have
Correct.
an AAU guy, couldn't have a college guy.
Right. A professional high school coach.
Right. You could have any of those guys. So you could have got
had to be X number of years. They
Right.
told me they had to have X number of years. I think it was 6 or something in the business. So again, there are so many people that have meant so much to you and your program and everything. Being able to choose, if you were to go outside of that immediate circle would have been tough as well.
I felt like you, North Crowley basketball should have had some shine on this whole accomplishment. And at the same time, you've reaped the reward for all the stuff you've done, and you've hired these guys to work alongside of you. And what are you saying to them if you choose someone else now at this moment
Right.
not to go?
Right.
No, y'all got to go with me.
No, I agree. I mean, you talk about teams, you talk about roles, and all of that kind of stuff. And like I said, there were several different options that came across my mind because I actually had a large turnover in my staff this year, and so I had some newer guys, some fresher faces, and had some guys that had recently taken head coaching jobs and stuff like that. So I did consider that as well. I did consider guys that were with me in the past and had moved on to head coaching jobs or something like that. Even ex-players that are now head coaches and stuff. But at the end of the day, really felt like that to make it a true honor, a true recognition of, the program, because it wasn't about any one year that Tommy Brakel had.
Right.
It was about accumulation of all of the years. And we go back to that, that initial introduction, being the only head coach that North Crowley has ever had, and being, that being the only head job I've ever had. It seemed like we were there on behalf of all of the young men that had participated in our program and all of the assistant coaches.
And unlike unlike you coached the McDonald's All-American.
I did get one.
Yes,
I
you did. You did get
I
one.
reached out to him as well.
Right. So when people ask about the McDonald's game, I always say, I've never coached the McDonald's All-American until I coached the
about
game.
12 of them now.
I coached 12, Coach. I coached 12 in Houston. And it's kind of funny, too, that the game that you coached and the game that I coach is in the same place.
Hey, now I did ask that. And it was a contractual thing.
Okay.
They were able to get a better deal when they go into a city and do it a couple of years in a row. A lot of times that first year can be about just kind of ironing out some kinks and stuff like that. So, I was curious on that because you seemed like you would spread it around and things like that. I also asked the question, I said, hey, how much of this, because I just wanted to know. I said, how much of this was regional and, hey, I was from Texas, you were from Texas, and they squashed that immediately.
Right.
They said, no, this is a national recognition.
Right.
It wouldn't have mattered if it was in, Dallas, Texas, or if it was in, Los Angeles, California, that you were the one that was selected.
That's right. That is right. Coach, so you're in the middle of your season, you get this honor, and you got to go back and coach and sit on it.
Mm-hmm.
How tough was that? I mean, we kind of talked about it.
Yeah.
But how, from behind the scenes, what was the toughest part of that?
Well, I mean, it was tough. And then I don't know about you, but I also worried about staff chemistry a little bit. Them telling me we could only take 2 guys, and and you're sitting there with a coaching staff full of 4, and a lot of them were new faces anyway. I did kind of get lucky because I had so many really good basketball coaches and really committed guys on the staff, but several of them didn't even qualify, with the qualifications they gave me. They came straight from college or, done this other stuff.
Right.
And so, eventually, as the announcement was made, we sat and we talked about it a little bit, and I told them how important it was to me that this was a staff recognition, and that even as a staff recognition, that we were, again, only, representation of all of the kids, players, and coaches that had been in North Crowley. And I told them that whether Crowley ISD paid for it or Tommy Brakel paid for it, that they were all going down there and that they were all going to be a part.
Coach, so I went real old school. I mean, I knew that I knew that one assistant was going to go because he was my right-hand associate head coach. That was Seneca Wall. He was definitely going. So now I got one more, but I got 3 guys I got to choose from.
Right.
And I'm second year into DeSoto, I ain't really ingrained as much as, like, for example, you. I'm like, this tough. I said, guys, I'm going to tell y'all. I didn't tell y'all this up to this point, but this staff has been chosen to coach McDonald's All-American game this year. And then they said, okay, what that mean? I'm like, well, I get to take 2 coaches. Who you taking? I said, man, look, give me a hat, give me your names. Write your name on a piece of paper, put it in this hat. We're going to draw.
That's a big draw right there.
Coach, I said, we're going to draw. I said, whoever, shake it up, and I'll just pull the name out the hat, and whoever name is, they get to go. And I said, first of all, is everybody here going to be cool with that? And everybody was like, yeah. And I didn't, if it was some backlash behind it, I never heard about it, never saw it. and it worked out, really good.
Right.
So, I mean, no matter how you were going to get to that elimination, you had to do it, and we chose that way.
And you know, as a coach, you're always preaching team. You're always preaching, how important it is to be tight together, and then to have to make that kind of a selection, would be challenging, and that was one of my concerns.
Right.
But like I said, I kind of got lucky from that sense, because I had a lot of guys that were worthy, but didn't have very many that qualified.
Gotcha.
And so it just kind of
And
played
that-
out
Coach,
where my
those-
numbers were great, and then again, I mean, I just did not. I didn't want anybody to feel left out. If they'd have let me take, all 6 guys and, go through the practices and every other piece of it, I would have done everything that they allowed us to do. But I tried to keep them as much apart as we possibly could, and to let them know how proud and appreciative I was of each and every one of them.
In life, there's always limits on things.
That's true.
So this was nothing different than another part or another facet of life.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Coach. So now you've had one night's sleep, I guess, of this event. Overall, how would you rate your total McDonald's experience from the time that you got the phone call to now being on this podcast? How would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest? What would you rate that overall experience, Coach?
Richard, I don't know. We've traveled a lot of the same paths, and I think as we've talked here, over the last few months, we've realized, some of those, whether it's Nike stuff or, different things over the years, that we've been in a lot of the same circles. Mm-hmm. And, I would say, it's about as close to a 10 as you can get. And again, it was because I just grew up. The McDonald's All-American game was such a big deal, and such a huge national recognition for the players that made it, and never even dreamt of being asked to go and coach it. I've had a couple of others, obviously winning a state championship, because
Right.
that is your team. That is the guys that you have put in all the work with, and just the sweat and the blood and the tears and all of that kind of stuff. That's still probably top of the list for me. I had an opportunity, to go do some USA basketball stuff, and there was just something about USA across your chest that's hard to beat now. Yeah. And even though there are a lot of USA coaches at different levels and stuff like that, something about putting that USA, on your chest when you're going out to coach a team to play against China and, Mexico and Spain and all of those countries. That one was up there as well. But I think it's hard to rank stuff like that. But man, this is way up there in the rankings for sure.
Well, for me, it's crazy, because nothing supersedes the state titles.
Right.
Nothing.
Totally agree.
Nothing
totally
supersedes, because them, like you say, these are our guys, and we did it. And when you look back, Coach, to win a state title in Texas,
about as tough as it gets, isn't it?
Coach,
about
I can't
as tough
think.
as it gets.
And I've been to other state tournaments. I can even say this. I went to the state championship in Indiana, which is supposed to be the mother of basketball.
Right.
And watched how they put their state tournament on, and ended up, Coach, the next year, one of the kids I saw in the state tournament was a McDonald's All-American. And I told him, I said, I've already seen you play.
And he played for you, right?
Yeah. He
I thought you told me that story. That was a neat story.
He was on my team, and I remember it because he went to Michigan State, and I was like, I remember Izzo being at the game, and I was wondering who was he looking at, and I didn't know it was going to be
Right.
you. Yeah, so.
But Texas is about as tough as it comes to get that state title, to win 7 games, in a 1-game elimination against the level that you're having to play at. Heck, to even get out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area with all the talent and all of the success that all the programs have had here is just such a challenge. And so, doing it with your guys and in your community and kind of, like you talked about USA and the pride in that, but having that school, that logo right there on your chest of the school and the community that you represent, that's a big deal as well.
In Indiana, Coach, they play the semifinals one weekend and come back and play the state championship. I say we play the next day.
We played the next day. That was a tough turnaround, huh?
I'm like, guys, are you serious? They get to come back after, so they can go back and watch film. They can really get down. with all the little small details of what
Right,
the team
right.
does. We got less than 24 hours.
Hey, it may be a whole nother podcast, but that's an experience in itself, and it would be very interesting to hear how all the different coaches prepare for that kind of turnaround. You know, we all are going to do video and have video on both teams that you could be playing in the championship game. But, you know, if there were any little things that you did that you felt like may have given you a leg up, that'd be a good topic as well.
Man, I just wish I had that week.
Yeah, no lie, but you don't. So
but we
you know,
don't. Yeah, you got to play by the rules that you're governed by. Well, so for me, like I said, nothing supersedes the state tournament, but the McDonald's game is like right there with it, and I was fortunate enough to do the global games, and you know I was able to coach the 19 and under team. But that year they put the 21 and under team in the same tournament with us. They getting ready to go to Greece.
right?
You know, these are guys that were staying in school for 4 years back then.
Exactly.
And I told them, I said, when we had and they put us in our pool, so we had to play them in pool play, and they beat us by 30. The first thing I told them when we got in the locker room was the JV met the varsity. You know, JV met the varsity.
Hey, and you know those 2 years with that body development and everything else makes all the difference in the world.
No question, no question. What gave you the most joy this past week? From you landed, you got off the plane, somebody there to pick you up, took you to the hotel. What did you enjoy the most about your whole McDonald's experience, Coach?
You know, to try to narrow it down, you know, it would be because it was just a week full of joy. You know, I mean, even further than that, when you talk back to, you know, receiving the phone call. You know, I think if I was to try and narrow it down, and I know I've already touched on this, but this is how strongly I feel about it, it was the representation. The representation of, you know, a Keith Langford who played at Kansas, who all, you know,
him.
fabulous player, great young man. You know, still talk to him, you know, today and the texts and the phone calls and stuff like that, and how close he was to being a McDonald's All-American, and probably should have been a McDonald's All-American. But it's just, you know, and in every interview I did, and you know, with everybody I talked to, you know, I wanted them to know that yes, I'm going down there. But I'm going down there for us. You know, I'm going down there for all of us. And, you know, tried to let them know how much I appreciated them. You know, when we talked about who were the people that you talked to initially, well, after the announcement was made, I was immediately on the phone with my assistant coaches of the past. You know, just letting them know how much I appreciated them, how much I appreciated, you know, all just shoulder to shoulder together. You know, because you know the kind of time we put in. You know the type of work that it takes to be successful year after year after year. And so, you know, I just wanted all of those people to know how appreciative I was of them. And I think that was what gave me the most joy, was to, you know, just tell them how much I appreciated them, how much I've grown with them over the years, and, you know, how honored I am to be able to go down and represent them.
For me, Coach, it was the practices and the attention that the practices got with all of the NBA people being in there.
Right.
And the reason why that is for me is because you have your program, and we all know that there's a knucklehead or two in our programs, or sometimes it's hard to get a team to buy in to what you're selling. When we got down, we took the same plan that we coached with at DeSoto to the McDonald's game.
Gratifying, right?
Yes, sir.
Extremely gratifying.
Yes, sir.
To say, because I'm gonna finish your sentence for you, because I know that, you know, to set and have others, whether they're NBA guys, whether they're, you know, USA basketball. We talked about Don Showalter and guys like that. You know, to come up to you and go, man, that's good stuff. That's you know, it's real gratifying. It's a great affirmation of what you do is right, what you do is good, you know, and deep down we know it.
Right.
But to be able to take it on that kind of a stage and in front of that type of an audience is very reassuring.
Yes, it is. And so when we came back from McDonald's, I got confirmation on it when I told the guys, I said, the same things you guys complain about, and you're not even a jack-in-the-box McDonald's All-American. The McDonald's kids never question. You say, you got to make this many shots in this amount of time. If you don't, then you got 2 sprints. They say, where we line up if we don't make it, Coach. You want to know why we almost got it and blah, blah, blah. So if we can take this same formula to the All-Americans and get no grief,
why are we getting it here?
Why are we getting it here?
Right.
And that was the part that was the most enjoyable part for me. And fortunately for me, I had a teammate of mine in college that is a chief scout for the Milwaukee Bucks. And he was the first person I saw, and he called me out, and he was like, man, let me watch your practice, man. You know, this, that, other. We start watching practice, and then, like you say, he gave me the compliment. Man, that's some good stuff, you know, this, that, and other. You got him engaged. You got him doing this. Well, I know you didn't want to come here and watch him do defensive slides. You wanted to see him run, shoot, defend.
Right.
And that's what our whole practices were set up with, because that's what the game is going to be, up and down. You know.
Now, this is where the interviewee becomes the interviewer a little bit. I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Anything you did initially to try to help with that buy-in going in, knowing that you were going, you know, because what we do so often is about building relationships, right? You build relationships, you build trust, you build all of that. You use little things like McDonald's All-Americans, you know, opportunities, or, you know, we saw this college do this or this college do that, or college recruits that, you know, that come in. But was there anything that you went down with a game plan to help get that, you know, that buy-in from kids from all over the country that have been told how amazing they are, you know, for probably all of their lives, or at least most of their lives?
Yes, I do, Coach. It's funny you bring that up. So, you know that when you first get there and you get your whole team, they put you in a meeting room, you get to meet them, then they come in and give all the...
I knew, thanks to a friend of mine.
Okay, yeah.
So I got, later on that question, I got my scouting report going in. Appreciate you, brother.
Well, you know, like you say, relationships, you help people out. So what I did was, Coach, I walked in and I went point blank to him. I looked at him, I said, just so that y'all know a little bit about me, I've won this many games, a couple state titles, blah, 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 but it ain't about me. It's about you. I said, the one thing you don't have to worry about this weekend is me messing with your commas. They say, commas. I say, yeah, I know you guys got NILs and y'all got these kind of stuff, and a lot of y'all projected to go be one and dones and all that. I am not going to mess with the comma in your dollar sign. And they looked at me and like, promise you, I'm not going to do anything to mess with your money. Now, you can do something to mess with your money.
Right.
But not me, because I got a plan laid out here for you guys to showcase everything you do. We've already studied you. We kind of know the things that you do. And the easy part for us is McDonald's is going to choose the starting lineup.
Right.
Because they want to see certain matchups. You know, that guy over there that you've been waiting to hoop against, you're going to get to hoop against him Tuesday night.
Right.
And so they want to see that matchup, and so they control the minutes, they control the lineups. Now, that fourth quarter, once everybody's met the minimum number of minutes, I can play whoever. So now that's when you need me.
Right.
But I'm not going to mess with your combo. So what you do from beginning of this first practice till we get ready to play.
Through the third quarter of that game.
Yes, sir. You choose that, not
Right.
me. And that's what I use, Coach. I don't know if it worked, but
now that part we didn't talk about, right? We didn't talk about, you know,
No, we did
what
not
was
talk-
going to be said in meetings. I knew there was a meeting coming,
Right.
and that's why I wanted to ask you the question. I kind of stumbled across something that I thought worked really well too, and it, you know, it's so crazy. We just old coaches, right? But it was basically the same thing. You know, I said, you know, I told them who I was, introduced my staff, gave them a little bit about, you know, my background. I made a little joke, kind of an icebreaker about how Trey Johnson wasn't going to get to play very much because he knocked us out of the playoffs 2 years ago.
Right.
You know, but then I just told him, I said, look, if at the end of this week I can step away and go back to Southwest Fort Worth and, you know that I have put you in a position to be the best version of you,
Right.
then I've done my job. I can walk away knowing that I have done my job this week. I said, now, that's going to take telling you some things that might be a little bit tough to hear, that maybe not everybody tells you all the time. I said, but I know that if I do that in a way, and I didn't use the, without affecting your commas, I'm never going to do it with the media or anything else, but just being able to talk to them. I said, but we're also going to do other little things to help as well. I said, no, everybody wants to play in the games. So all week long, in our practices and stuff, we did little things like we switched every ball screen. Okay, well, I don't need you fighting over, these ball screens, catching a knee to the thigh, mess around, not get to play on Tuesday night.
Right.
So our actions also, backed up, our initial words as well. But I think when they heard, that we're there for them.
Yes.
We're not here for us. We're here for you.
Yeah, this ain't about
it. We're just like you. We're extremely, honored to have been selected. But my job is to be here for you and let you be the best version of you that you can be every time you step on the court.
Right. I remember a comment, because, I said I've won over 700 games, and one of the kids, Kwame Evans, who's at Oregon now, played at Mount Verde.
Right.
He said, 700 games, man, my coach had won over 800 games. I said, yeah, because he's at Mount Verde. I know your coach. He's at Mount Verde. He gets to kind of pick and choose everything. We take what's in our neighborhood or what comes to us.
Right.
That's a little bit different. And then Justin Edwards jumped in. I mean, this is 2 days of having the kids, and Justin Edwards jumped in and say, but he our coach now. Right now, this weekend, this our coach.
Right.
We ain't talking about the high school coaches no more. This our coach. And I said, okay, then.
Yeah.
And Justin Edwards is going, played at Kentucky this year. So it was great. It was great to hear that. And it was, like I said, anytime you get reassurance of what you're doing is right, coach.
Agreed.
Man, that's I don't even know you put a dollar value on it. Okay, so let's hit this question, then we got time for one more topic. What surprised you the most about, because we go down with these expectations and what we think might happen. What surprised you the most?
First thing I did was did my scouting report. So I called this guy named Richard Bacon that I knew and had a ton of respect for, and I said, man, don't let me be surprised. So see, that's kind of a bad question there, because I wasn't surprised for too much. I did a lot of research on it. We watched video on the guys. We just scan the internet to try and figure out, as much as we could about them. We really, we focused more on ours than even, the kids that we were going to play against. I think naturally as a coach is, okay, well, how are we going to stop Cooper Flagg, or how are we going to do this, or how are we going to do that? We really put our focus on our guys. And so as we walked in, in the lobby, when we saw somebody, we knew them by face. We knew where they were going. We knew their ranking. We knew everything that we could find out about them, and we spent a considerable amount of time. We had 2 days worth of coaches meetings, right at the end, just over the small details. But so not a lot of surprises. I think the one thing that whether surprised or gratified or whatever, but it was how competitive that they were in that game, and that they really, they wanted to win. They didn't want it to be just a traditional all-star game that was bad basketball. They were coachable. And I was a little bit hesitant, to know just how much buy-in we would get from them, when you asked them to do some of the smaller things. But our guys did a really good job, and that was pleasantly surprising to me.
So my surprise happened to be the same thing, which brought me joy. Was how well they respected and accepted the things that we brought.
Agreed.
And I was a little bit leery of how well, but I had the opportunity to coach in the ABA, and we had guys on our team that were ex-NBA guys like Oliver Miller, had Jimmy King. And first, when Jimmy King was traded to our team in the ABA, first thing, because we had history, because he was at Plano East, and we used to play him all the time when I was at Lincoln. And then he used to come up to Lincoln for open gym. And first thing he told me, he said, Coach, I've always wanted to play for you, man, so coach me up. If I'm not doing this, let me know.
Right. That's not bad right there.
Man, that's why I have so much respect for Jimmy, man, and love that kid. Well, he ain't no kid no more, but love that guy. Coach, I want to, I sent you a note and said that I'm going to ask you a question that you have no idea, or give you some information you have no idea. Coach, you don't know how how hard it was to sit on that, not announcing that you were the coach.
Right.
Coach, this has been hard for me for a long, long time. And I've been wanting to tell you this, and I said, I'm going to use this opportunity on my podcast to tell you this. So Willie Warren,
Yes, sir.
dad, is Charles Johnson,
Okay.
who played for me at Lincoln High School.
Did not know that.
His mother was at Lincoln. I remember when they started dating in
Okay.
high school. Michaela Warren, went to Lincoln High School.
Right.
Loves her some Coach Bacon.
Got you.
So going into Willie's senior year, he was courted by Oak Hill, right?
Right.
And went to Oak Hill.
He did.
But he came back to North Crowley and helped you win a state title, right?
Absolutely.
Let me tell you something that you don't know. Michaela called me on a Saturday crying about what to do.
Right.
She said, Coach Bacon, I can't think of nobody else to call but you. She said, I want my baby back here.
That's awesome.
And then she said, I don't like the situation up there. He called me complaining about it all the time. But if I go get him and bring him back, what's going to happen on the reception of him coming back to North Crowley? Coach, I'm going to tell you exactly what I told her. They're going to welcome him with open arms. I said, look, this is what I'll do, Malika. I will even help you drive out there to get him if you need me to help bring him back. Coach, you was my first or second round opponent in the playoffs every year.
Well, thank you for being unselfish with that.
Yeah, I was unselfish, Coach. and I told her, she said, but I need him to be a man. I need him to grow up because when he go off to college, I said, yeah, but you need to love on him too. And if he's doing the day-to-day up there and he's experiencing bad experiences, that's not good for him.
Right.
The guys who he come back to are guys he grew up with. They will accept him back. The guys he went to are guys he's trying to make friends with. I said, Tommy don't know this, but I own half of that ring. But no, Coach, this is a true story, and if you want to, you can call Malika and ask her, did she call me crying, Coach, tears.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, go get him. She said, okay, I'm going to go get him.
I knew it was a real tough decision for him originally, and then a real tough decision coming back as well. And, I was proud of the guys because, and when I say the guys, I mean all of the guys, they did welcome him back with open arms. But, he had left, and there was the sense of, we're not good enough for you, he left us, type deal. So it really took them, and I remember one thing that was really powerful for them is, initially when their feelings were hurt, they wanted to get shirts on that said, here because I want to be, which I thought was cool. Okay, we can gel around that. But then when it was time for Willie to come back, and I used their term against them a little bit. I said, here's a young man that had an opportunity to go and in his mind to better himself, to better his opportunity, everything else. And now he's coming back. Does anybody fit your motto better than him? Here because I want to be, not here because I have to be.
Right.
He didn't get kicked out of Oak Hill.
Right.
He didn't get out there and wasn't a starter or wasn't living up to expectations. None of that. He was here because he wanted to be, and that really resonated with him. Now, I'm about to get Willie more involved now that he's just about through playing professionally back over at North Crowley. I'm recruiting him. I'm recruiting him hard to be one of those guys that come back and coach for me. But, I want to give him his flowers with that too. Because when Willie came back, I said, man, you've got to trust me to help put you in a situation to be successful, not just as, part of North Crowley basketball, but individually as well. And Willie agreed. Shoot, I'm not sure he did an individual interview that was about Willie Warren until maybe the week before the state tournament. was when we backed off of it. If he did any interviews before that, it was about the team. It was about, we were very selective of who we sent to go do those interviews, because he had to, he didn't have to, but to make it all work, he needed to be very humble coming back in. And he did that. And that's not easy for a 17, 18-year-old McDonald's All-American in his own right.
Right. But Coach, I just wanted to let you know that as much as we competed, and I think that gets mixed up in the mixed bag with coaches, you compete, but you act like you can't respect. I've always respected what you did. First time we had a playoff negotiation when I was at Richland, we met in a classroom right after we had won a game. You guys came in with brief. I thought y'all was Secret Service. You came in coat and ties, Secret Service. Steve Smith and I talked about you last week on our bracket show regarding how professional you've always been and how much you run your program like college programs, and that's why it's a program, not a team, just a basketball team. And so, from me to you, I have mad respect for what you've done. I don't like Mike Krzyzewski, but I respect everything he's done in basketball. And the reason why I don't really care for Mike is because we played in that big tournament they have in North Carolina when I had Nolan Dennis.
Right.
And these are all the kids who were possibly going to the Tobacco Road schools, because he was thinking about going to North Carolina.
Right.
And when we walked in, our coaches saw him, and they said, Coach, I said, I'm going to go over and get a seat. And they said, well, we're going to go over and say hello to him. And he really kind of snubbed his nose at him. And so for that, and I give the reason why. That's the reason why I don't respect him like I do other college coaches, because I like those guys, and I mentioned this on many shows, Jim Calhoun, that dude there, as powerful as he was during that era when he was winning all those things at UConn, he always had time for me. He would call me. Anyway, I don't want to become that person.
Right.
And that's why I always, when I saw you, I spoke. I don't care where it was, hello. Whether you saw me first, I would get your attention to let you know. Hey, Tommy, how you doing? Hey, Richard, hey, what up,
Right.
So just so you know, never any animosity, never any dislike. It was just that we were competing against each other, and we both were very competitive. And I explained it to your mom. That was some of the conversations we had. I said, yeah, we think a lot of your son.
Well, I appreciate that, and I couldn't do anything more than just echo exactly what you just said. You grow up in the profession, and you're so competitive, and you know the guys that you're going to have to compete against, and playoff games, and or district opponents and stuff like that.
Right.
But you always know the guys that do it right too, and that really care about what they do. And it's funny with your story with Mike Krzyzewski. Stories like that or situations like that have also helped me grow as a coach, because who knows what kind of day Mike was having, what might have been on his mind, or what he might have been dealing with in that exact moment.
Right.
And we face that same thing sometimes as high school coaches, is that there may be somebody coming through your gym that is trying to rent out the gym, and they're looking at it, and it has nothing to do with basketball, and you're protective of it, and maybe you didn't even agree with it, and you snap at them a little bit, and then that's their vision of North Crowley basketball. So little things like that have helped me kind of grow along the way.
Right.
To know that, man, every time that we step out there, we're a representation of
sir.
our school, our community, and the profession. And showing some of those young coaches how to be professional is important sometimes as well, even while you're competitive.
Coach, I appreciate you coming by, man, sharing your McDonald's experience and some of these other good stuff. Man, this is a great show. Coaches, young coaches, you might want to watch this, because we laid out a lot of nuggets for you. You can be competitive and be friends at the same time. You guys did grow up in the AAU era, so y'all all friends anyway. Play on the same teams in the summer. You know this guy, know that guy. Another podcast. Anyway, this has been The Passion Project. I'm your host, Coach Richard Bacon. Special guest, Coach Tommy Brakel, North Crowley High School, and fresh off the McDonald's All-American game. Thank you.